let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt behind in life? Like somehow every other person has got the memo and somehow you missed it, or it feels like everyone on your street is getting a blessing and it seems like your house just keeps getting missed. If you felt that way, trust me, you are not alone. I have felt that exact same way. And let me tell you this, you're not late, you're not overlooked, you're not behind. You are on a God-ordained timeline. God has not forgotten you. And if you have been struggling with that mindset of feeling like you're behind, God has forgotten you, I'm going to give you 3 things on how to stay focused on your God-given dream today here on the show. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. My name's Kaytlynn Ward, and I am your host here at the Kaytlynn Ward Show. And hey, if you haven't already, do me the biggest favor and hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications because we have new episodes every single Friday. My desire is that every episode you leave with the tools to live the blessed life that God has designed for you. So let's get into the topic today. So how do we stay focused on our God-given path? The first thing you must do is to follow the instructions that God has given for you. Don't follow the instructions that God has given for other people. Follow the things that He has told you to do. You know how you can put your directions in and you put your destination of where you want to go in your GPS, and then when you open up Apple Maps, it gives you like 4 different routes that you can take. You can take a toll road, you can take a back road. This one will get you there this way. Well, there are so many different ways to get to where you want to go, and that I feel like is how our dreams are in life. Like all of us, you, me, your friends, your family, we all have this destination of dream achieved that we want to go to. But all of our paths look different. All of our paths are a little turn this way. Oh, you guys actually need to take the highway. You need to take the back way. God has instructions for all of us that line up with our path. Just how a GPS can tell you, oh, actually, this route is going to work better for you. This route's going to actually work better for your friend because she's coming from this way. God has all of these different kind of instructions that He wants to give you, but you need to focus on that and not focus on what God told someone else. Because I'll be honest, I have looked at my life sometimes and been like, well, I've been praying to get here, and my friend has also been praying to get here, and she got there before me. And so she got the job before me, or she got whatever. She got her dream before I did. And I've been like, man, like I need to be doing what she's doing because I've been doing what God has been telling me to do, but do I need to do what she is doing because it's working faster for her? And the Lord convicted me on it. He was like, Kaytlynn, that's her timeline. That's not your timeline. I have a timeline for you, and it's different than hers. And so you might have seen some people in your life that have gotten things that you want before you have. Maybe their house sold before yours did. Maybe their business is growing and yours has not grown like theirs has yet. Trust me, God has not forgotten you and you're not behind. But when you feel like that, I want you to stay consistent in the mundane things. Stay consistent in the instructions that God has given you, even when it doesn't make sense, because God can be giving them instructions and you don't know how long they've been praying for this thing to come to pass. But if you compare yours with theirs, you're going to get distracted. You're going to think, oh, because it's not happening for me in this timeline, then that I must be doing something wrong. I must be doing something incorrect, or I'm behind. God's forgotten me. No, God has not forgotten you. Don't get into their GPS. Stay in yours, because if you try to get in theirs, you're going to get off course. You know how, if you've ever seen The Office, Michael Scott, he was putting a GPS in his car, and he did it, and then it told him to turn right. It told him to turn right, and yet there was no road there. But he was like, oh, you know what? I trust the GPS. I'm going to do it. And then he ends up turning into a lake. Well, that GPS wasn't calculated for that area, and it tried to make it turn into a place where it wasn't supposed to go to. And so if you try to put your life, put your plans that God has given you in someone else's GPS and someone else's timeline, it's going to have the wrong calculations of telling you where to turn, telling you what to do, And that's not for you. So it's going to end up putting you in the wrong place. So do not focus on other people's timeline. Don't focus on what everyone else is doing. I want you to focus on what God has told you to do, because he's given you instructions and he hasn't forgotten you. The Bible tells us in Acts 10:34, God is no respecter of persons. So if he made it happen for your friend, he can make it happen for you. And if he made it happen for me, he can make it happen for you. God is not a respecter of persons. But if you get into this somewhat of a comparison of where you are looking at their life and think, well, it already happened for them. Like, I mean, if you look at what's happening in my life, it's not happening for me. Then you could get into this feeling of God forgot me. God did that for them and he's not doing it for me. It just must not be something that's going to happen for me. But let me tell you, if God's given you a dream and you obey what he tells you to do and you put in the work, you keep the path of faith, it's going to happen. But your timeline might just look different than your friend. But if you say, oh, God does that for them and he's not doing it for me, you're calling God a respecter of persons. And that is not true, because God is no respecter of persons. What he made happen for others, he can make happen for you. I know you might feel behind. I know like you probably feel forgotten in certain things, but trust me, he hasn't forgotten. God has a timeline for you that is perfect. You just have to stay the course. And if you honestly allow that comparison of, well, it happened for them, you could let this seeds of envy, seeds of hurt go in your heart simply because you shifted your focus off of your instructions. We can't do that. And if you let that happen, where you let the envy and the hurt, there could be bitterness that goes in your heart. And where bitterness is, you can't get anything done. You can't get anything done. So we must stay our course. We must stay obedient to what God has told us to do, because if we don't, we're going to end up veering off and we're not ever going to arrive at our destination, simply because we're trying to do what God told someone else to do and not what he told us to do. So the first thing, in order to stay on the God-given path that he's given you, you need to follow the instruction God gave you and not the instructions that God gave to your friend. And then number 2 is stay in your lane. Listen, you have a lane, you have a grace, you've been graced to embrace every season of your life. You have a calling that is handcrafted by heaven. Galatians 6:4 says this, each one should test their own actions, then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. Galatians 6:4 encourages believers to test their own work and find satisfaction in their own actions and growth rather than comparing themselves to others. So we can't compare ourselves to others, and this goes along with the timeline thing, because your job is your assignment. Your pace is your pace, and your timeline is God's timeline for you. Just because someone else is prospering and blooming doesn't mean that you've been forgotten. It doesn't mean that at all. The harvest that they have is not an evidence of your failure. The breakthrough that they have is not proof that you're behind. And the blessing is not a threat. It's a testimony. The enemy is going to try to get you to feel like, I'm behind, simply because your friend got a breakthrough. They're also going to make you feel like that you're a failure. He's going to make you feel like you failed if your friend gets that prayer answered before you. Why? Because I love what Jerry Savelle says. He used to say, if the enemy can't steal your joy, he can't take your goods. We must continue to be joyful and to practice gratitude of thanking God for what he's done in our lives, what he's doing whenever we see good things happen for other people. And we need to stay in our lane. Whenever God has given us an instruction, whenever he's given us an assignment, stay in your lane and do what God has told you to do. Follow the instructions of what he's told you to do, even when it feels like there's no progress. And also, another thing that can help you to stay in your lane and to stay confident in the instructions that God has given you is that when you see good things happen for other people, rejoice with them. Rejoice when other people do good, because the enemy wants you to get so distracted on what God is doing in their life that you forget what God has already done in your life, what God is doing in your life. And if he can do that, then he can get you out of your lane. And so in order to stay in your lane, practice gratitude. I want you to thank God for what he is doing right now. Whenever he gives you an instruction, I want you to follow it, even when it doesn't make sense. And instead of saying, whenever you see someone else have something really good happen for their life, instead of saying, that again, why hasn't it happened for me? I want you to look at that friend, that family member, that coworker and say, you know what? That happened for them, I'm next. It happened for that family, my family's next. Never allow yourself to get into bitterness of feeling like it never happens for me. It only happens for other people. Don't allow yourself to do that, because we need to stay in our lane, and we stay in our lane by practicing that gratitude. We stay in our lane by focusing on the instruction that God has given us, even when it doesn't make sense. And you may feel like, well, I feel like it's happening for them and it's not happening for me. The Bible says to seek ye first the kingdom of God. It doesn't say seek the timeline of others. No, whenever you are on a path and God has given you something to do, I want you to do it. And if you feel like, okay, God, am I doing everything I need to do? Is there something I'm missing? Seek him first. Seek his kingdom first. Seek his word first. And I can promise you, he's going to give you the instructions. And he might say, you know what? This is something that you need to do now. And that's going to get you where you need to go. Or he might say, just keep going. Just keep going. You're doing exactly what I have you to do. So the first two things in order to stay on your God-given path is, number one, follow the instructions that God has given you. Number two, stay in your lane. And number three, the proper time. Let me tell you this. This sounds kind of weird, but the proper time principle is this. Galatians 6:9 says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So our third principle could be this today. Don't give up. Do not give up, because God has a proper time for you, and it may not make sense, but trust me, the timing is always right. There's a proper time attached to your dream. There's a proper God-ordained moment for you. There is a heaven-scheduled season that God is making happen on your behalf, and you're not forgotten. Stay faithful. Stay focused. Stay obedient to what God tells you to do, even when it feels like nothing's happening, because your harvest, your breakthrough, it is not some random thing. No, it's appointed. God has amazing plans for you. We just can't give up. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you guys about this today is because I felt that in my own life. I've seen really good things happen for other people. I've seen new jobs. I've seen just a few things that, like, God, I've been praying for that to happen for me and it hasn't happened yet. And the Lord just reminded me, you have a path, Kaytlynn. And whoever's watching right now, you have a path that God has given you. You have a dream, and he has the right instructions, the right turns, the right people for you to meet, and we can't afford to get off that path. Because if we try to focus on what everyone else is doing instead of what God told us to do, we're never going to get to where God wants us to go. So if you have felt like you've been behind, if you felt like God's forgotten you, which he hasn't, that's just a lie the enemy tells you. But if you felt like that today, these are some things that I want you to do. Number one, I want you to journal what God has already done for you. I want you to write down the receipts, the reminders. You need to remind yourself of the proof of God's goodness. Don't ever forget to remember the good things that God has done for you, because when you forget, that's when you get out of the flow of faith. That's when you get out of the flow of gratitude. That's when you get out of the flow of the Spirit, because we cannot afford to forget what God has done in our lives, because it builds our faith. And number two, I want you to journal what God has promised you. I want you to write down the prophecies that have been prophesied over you, over your family. I want you to write down the scriptures that God has highlighted to you. And I want you to write down the dreams that he is put in your heart. The Bible said, where there is no vision, the people perish. You may feel like you're a little lost right now. Have you written down that dream? Has it just been staying up here, or have you written it down? I want you to write it down, because just as important it is to remember what God has done, it's also important to review and say out loud what God has promised you, because God has big plans for you. This shifts our eyes away from comparing our timeline to other people onto our assignment, because we're focused on, God, you said this about my family. You said this about my job. You said this about my business. And so we must stay focused. It realigns our faith. It realigns us into gratitude. And the truth is, God has not forgotten you, not for 1 second. Not for 1 second. And I want you to declare this with me today. My path is blessed. My timing is perfect. My journey is God-directed. I refuse to compare. I stay in my lane, and I'm trusting God's timing for my life. I challenge you today to trust in God's timing for your life. You may feel like you're behind. You may feel like you need to do what someone else is doing, but trust me, you need to be obedient, stay in faith, and focused on what God has told you to do, because if you do that, it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. I know it might not feel like it. And I'm telling you, I'm preaching to the choir right now, because there have been things that I'm like, okay, God, you told me to do this and I'm doing it. And it doesn't seem like anything's happening, but let me tell you, God, I trust you. And in those moments when you feel like there's not been a progress, stay consistent, because God has an amazing plan for your life. You're not behind. You're right where you need to be, and keep the faith, because it's going to happen. Those breakthroughs are going to happen. Those dreams are going to come true if you don't give up. If this episode encouraged you today, do me the biggest favor and let me know in the comments. And hey, if you're new or returning and haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because we have new episodes here every single Friday right here at the Kaytlynn Ward Show. And I'll see you again next week.